So welcome to this week's episode of the Python People podcast. And this week I am very honoured indeed to be joined by Natalia Lyarskaya. Natalia, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you. My pleasure to be here.
Good. My pleasure to have you on this very wet, rainy, dull day in London. But yeah, lovely to have you. Lovely to be joined by you. And I guess to frame the chat today, Natalia, by way of introduction. So for those people that haven't had a chance to meet with you yet, you are the CDO for ZestMoney, so Chief Data Officer for ZestMoney. You're also in the DataIQ Top 100 Most Influential Leaders in Data, which is a real accolade. So again, a real honour to have you here, and thanks for coming to share your perspectives. Yeah, I guess the theme of the episode, we got chatting quite recently and we talked about what it takes to grow a data function within a startup business, and data science function, I guess, in particular with your background. So we thought, let's get together, let's do a podcast and sort of share a few ideas, and clearly you have a wealth of experience, I'm sure, to share with people. So yeah, before we get into all that though, do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself, your kind of career story to date, and yeah, we can go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think from the early days, I had a passion for data, everything related to calculus, to math, to numbers. I always love doing this. And I got a math teacher in the school that actually, I think he was half mathematician and half musician, who inspired me a lot to move into this field. And I chose economics. At that time, no one was talking about computer science yet, or data science as a career. So economics was very popular. So I was thinking that that's something that can be quite a demand on the market. And I really loved studies. It was very much intense in mathematics, statistics, econometrics, everything. And finally, I ended up doing my PhD, what's called institutional economics. I don't know if you heard about it. It's basically the field of economics that studies non-market incentive of human behavior. So it's about rules of the games, the behavioral economics, how humans behave to different signals, to different motivations. So that's fascinated me quite a lot, and I was inspired a lot by various conferences that was taking part of. I had an honor to be in the conference together with the first woman who actually got the Nobel Prize in economics, Eleanor Ostrom. So that's was a really amazing experience.
I bet.
I then decided to move away from academics and actually go into industry. And this is where I had my experience in the company. It's called CRIF. It is one of the biggest credit bureau now on the market, covering many different markets. At that point, when I joined them, they were not that famous. I think they joined, they actually came to start their operations in Moscow. And that's when I joined them as a first statistic analyst. Again, no one was talking yet about data science. And this is where I understood that I can apply the knowledge and the modeling part and statistic part of what I was doing in the university. I didn't know anything about financial technology sector, how to build the scorecards, how to build the probability default model, loss forecasting, and so on. I had a lot of great teachers on the way. But that's actually gave me a very good feeling what I want to do in the future. And this is where I decided to be focused on the FinTech sector as well going forward. So when the company started operations in Moscow, there were not much work for the professional like me. They were looking for the clients, but no yet data to build the models. So I've been spending a lot of time in their headquarters in Italy and doing a lot of work with the customers all over the Europe. And afterwards, I moved to London, and this is where I started working for Vanguard. For, again, being their first data analyst at that point, and basically building from the scratch all the models on to improve their underwriting decisions. And this is where I got, again, taste for extremely fast developing industry, and was fascinated what machine learning and data can do in this sector to basically differentiate someone coming from the traditional mainstream background, like the big banks, and what actually the startups can do in this field for fraud prevention, for optimizing the product, for evaluating the risk. Basically, applications can be anything. And I spent quite a lot of time with them, building the teams, going internationally on different markets, lately doing a lot of regulatory stuff related to affordability assessment, price optimization. And the last almost 6 years now, I'm with ZestMoney. Is actually an Indian company with 3 brilliant co-founders. We worked together at Wonger, and they decided to build their own business in India. It is, again, in the financial technology sector. And currently, ZestMoney is one of the largest and the fastest growing pay later product in India. And I started with them basically from building the data science team locally in India, and lately moving towards more strategic thinking around data, technology, and so on.
Wow, fantastic! That's great. Really interesting story. And what I love about that story is, I guess, your background really lends very well to a career in data science. I can see fully how you've landed in this field, but it just seems like you kind of followed your intuition. And I'm impressed at how many places you've been where you've kind of obviously started at the beginning and scaled it up to the beginning. So you must be doing something right.
Well, that's true.
That's fantastic. Really, really great story. And must be very proud of your career to date. So talk us through then that that journey, from establishing something from scratch, setting up a data science function from scratch in a startup environment. Talk us through your experience of that.
Yeah, that's actually a very challenging experience. I think there are 2 key reasons I see why it is challenging. The first one, when you hire data scientists, the data scientists, a big thing that they want to do is to build a sophisticated machine learning algorithm. The reality is that when they come to the startup environment, majority of the time they're spending on doing anything else but building machine learning models. And I think this is where the disconnect happens between incentives that the data scientists have and their priorities and the idea what people will be doing for the company. And I think that the key thing is exactly to set up the right expectations for the candidates, to make them understand what exactly the business is trying to achieve. And there are plenty of low-hanging fruits. You can just improve your the way you collect data, accuracy of certain data points you collect, or building simple models that allow you already reach good business objectives. And then you can spend later on some time to improve the model, create multiple versions of it. But I think the foundations that you start building, and this is the important part. And that also allows the data scientists to understand what exactly is the connection between the business and the data science. So you do not really need to jump immediately on the deep learning methodology to build some simple model that will solve already the big part of the questions that the business is asking, for example. So I think that's one of the challenges. The second one is that when you're a startup, no one knows about you. No one knows the brand you are building. And nowadays, the market for data scientists is so big. Everyone just looking to hire data scientists, and they have the opportunity to look for the best option they can have on the market. So there is a lot of effort being brought to persuade them and to basically sell the dream to join the team at the very beginning, to be the one who actually will build the product from the scratch to influence what business is doing. So I think that was also quite challenging and of course you do not want to bottom fishing for the lower quality people. You want to hire the stars, and this is what it takes to persuade them to basically bring this aspirational aspect to hiring process.
Yes, that's a really good point, actually, because I guess when a lot of people enter into the world of data science, they want to get involved with more sexy stuff like machine learning algorithms and all the more advanced stuff. And I guess when you're setting up a data science function from scratch, it's not always necessary to be doing that stuff straight away, like you said. And it's actually the purpose, and one of the great beauties of the value, I guess, of data science is it can genuinely solve business problems and add a huge amount of value to the business and solve a lot of those problems. But you've obviously got to be prepared to solve the actual problems that need solving right here, right now. And
absolutely,
that balancing act, like you said, between how do you attract the superstars, the talent out there in the market, whilst also that level of pragmatism to say, look, you might not necessarily be doing the most sort of deep learning or any of that kind of stuff straight away. How did you kind of balance that from your perspective when you were, like I say, combined with the fact that not many people maybe even knew who you were yet, and you didn't have a brand or a reputation yet? How did you balance that as a leader?
Yeah, I think a lot of attraction that I tried to bring to the data scientist role at that stage was really to be the one who influences the decision making. And I think overall, for building the effective and productive data science team, it is important to have data scientists at the table together with the business stakeholders, that they understand the context of the problem they are trying to solve and actually come up with a solution, rather than, the business decides what needs to be done and then goes back to the data scientist that just spends 100% of his time sitting in front of computer and building some, writing some Python code and tells him what to do. I don't think this is exactly the value of the data scientist to the team. The value comes from the person who understands the problem from A to Z, and understand what are the right tools, what are the right models to be built for this. And I think that's also as far as a lot of data scientists, and they like to be exposed to the business. They like to be the ones who are taking part in and doing this contribution. I think what really, at least in my experience, a lot of data scientists are passionate about is to quickly see the result of their work. And I think that's exactly the way how you can attract them, by saying, look, this is a problem you are trying to solve. You have all the available resources for you. And then in 1 month, say they see their model being in production and actually taking real-time decisions. And that's, I think, the best motivation for data scientists to see this quick feedback loop for what they've been working on.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. And how do you go about? And you're talking about when you started ZestMoney, it was an Indian company. Is that right, in terms of founded in India? So did you go about building the team on a remote basis to start off with, or were you acquiring talent and building up the data science function in India, or were you doing that locally? How did that work?
I've been doing it in India. So the company has a headquarters in Bangalore, as the Silicon Valley of India, basically the biggest tech companies, the startups are all there. So I've been spending a lot of months during my first years there, going and hiring people. And I think at that time, basically 6 years ago, another challenge in India was the data scientist. The term could signify anything, from someone who just have basic, Excel skills to deal with the data, to someone who is very deep into coding and solving some deep math problems with various algorithms. So it can be anything. And on the paper, you do not really recognize what skill sets people have. And again, we've been trying to create the competition for them, for example, to compete and see the results, what actually the person can build. But we found out that people were just dropping off again because the market was so saturated and they could go anywhere where no one asked them to perform any test or write any piece of code. So that was pretty challenging because at the same time you have to find a way to test their actual skills, but you didn't want to end up again taking just the talent that is not going anywhere because of their quality, for example. So that was a big, I would say, specific to India challenge. So yeah, that's how that was going. But that was exciting time. That was actually my first journeys to India, and there are a lot of fun stories about how the whole process was going.
Yeah, I bet, absolutely. And I think that's a really great point, actually, and it's something that a lot of clients, irrespective of whether you're recruiting in abroad or in your own country, when the supply and demand paradigm, the demand massively outstrips supply, and candidates, do have a lot of options. And I think that's definitely happened over the last few years from the data science space, and in particular, kind of machine learning, true machine learning engineers. They can kind of, I suppose, cherry pick often the companies they work at, and it's about, and I often help clients and sort of coach them through that. It's the candidate experience that's as important as assessing those technical skills. Obviously, from a client's point of view, of course, you have to make sure you're hiring the right person and you've actually assessed the right skills you need to be confident they're the right person. But it's also about not making the process overtly difficult in comparison to the rest of the market, because, like you said, it's often those companies that end up securing a lot of good talent. It's not necessarily the best companies, in my opinion, or necessarily the ones that are doing the most innovative work, but often it's those with the slickest process, and they've found a way to make the candidate experience really smooth. So I think that's a really, really great point that you mentioned there. So are you still managing a team remotely in India now, or do you have it more locally based, the data science team? What's the kind of split internationally?
No, everyone is in India. So I do manage team remotely. We now have key people on the ground, so my work becomes much easier. But at the beginning, again, I've been spending a lot of time locally just because the team needed some guidance, and it definitely worked much better when I was in the office. But the last year showed that the remote work actually works as well, quite well for everyone. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I guess you were probably already there, really, weren't you? Sort of pre-pandemic, you'd obviously done the hard work, and you'd established that remote culture already, which is great. And for a lot of companies that weren't prepared for any remote working, clearly the pandemic threw the cat amongst the pigeons quite a lot and put them into a serious state of disarray. So for those companies that had managed to perfect that model beforehand, shall we say, they seem to have weathered the storm quite a bit better, so it's great to see you fall into that camp. So talk us through then. You've talked about how you go about hiring for talent and the story and how you kind of paint that picture for somebody. Once you've laid the initial foundations, you've established the team, I think especially if you're managing people remotely, how do you then continue to inspire and motivate people remotely, and how do you keep the team evolving, keep it moving forward towards a goal? What's your take on that?
Yeah. So as I said, I think the first and most important for me is to make sure that everyone is engaged and feel that the work they are doing is important for the business. So I try to bring everyone, even like junior people, to present their work themselves in front of the business stakeholders. Because I also believe that the data scientists are not only people who, write code and are technically skillful, but I think the biggest part of the data science story is also the storytelling. How you talk about the work you've done and what exactly you want to show, to demonstrate to the business. And I think that's as well one of the challenges that a lot of data scientists have. They are very good in coding, in problem solving, but sometimes it is a lack of right communication skills to be able to explain, especially to non-technical people, what exactly they've been doing. So you kind of need to have this helicopter view as well to be able to create the story. I don't think it is such an easy exercise, and everyone needs to train and to have some experience to do this, rather than someone who is just coming with this skill set naturally. So that's why I motivate my team, in, as I said, from the junior positions, to be able to present to different audiences, to talk about the work, to be able to answer the questions, to challenge what they've been doing. And I think that motivates the team quite a lot. The other part is the problems themselves, of what kind of problems they are solving. I think, as I said before, many of them like to work on challenging technical problems, but the more they understand business, they actually like to solve the problem as well from, let's say, consumer point of view or from the end user point of view, depending on the product they are building. So I think that's as well opens up their mind and allows them to see much bigger perspective and to create better solutions, I think, to some extent. And I think operationally wise, there are many touch points we have during the week, some stand-up calls just to make sure that everyone is aligned on what are the goals, or what is the roadmap, if there are any questions, any blockers. We have quite a lot of lunch and learn or different sessions where someone presents not necessarily the work related to the business, but some article they've read or some interesting podcast they've been listening to recently. So there is a lot of this knowledge sharing, and I think data scientists again are like in this community where they can not only talk about the work they are doing, but also just share the new updates, what is happening new in the market with the data, with the technology, and this kind of learning is always inspiring and helping team to get bounded together.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. I think peer learning is a really powerful way, isn't it? Because often as a manager or a leader, of course you're responsible for their training and development, and very often, it kind of comes from one channel. People's learning and development comes from you, and irrespective of how inspirational you are, often just all of your knowledge coming from one source, it can sometimes all sort of dull a little bit. So I think keeping it fresh and doing sort of peer learning sessions. We as a company, very similar. We often do sort of peer learning sessions where we get together and on the morning, sort of share a video that somebody's found really motivational, and we'll all talk about it. And I just think it keeps the job quite fresh and interesting, and it feels like people feel best when they are growing and developing, and and I think that's something we can all do as people outside of our job as well, from a personal development standpoint. So yeah, I totally agree on that front. So
I think just to add here, I think another interesting point that what we are trying to do quite a lot is to organize hackathons, both internally and externally, and that's really what data scientists love, just to pick up problem that is a bit outside of the strategic roadmap that we have, and work on it either individually or in teams. So that's kind of sense of competition, I think, from time to time is very healthy and help team to get involved as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally. Have you managed to organise any hackathons remotely, or have you only ever done them in person?
Not this year, but this year the team was participating in the hackathon that was organized by the TransUnion, and actually they won the first two prizes. So I was very proud of them. Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah, that's awesome. It's a really nice accolade, isn't it? And it's just a good bit of fun as well, a bit of team pride, I guess. And you like I say, from that bonding point of view.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's not often you really get to go up against other companies, I guess, in the same domain, is it? So, you know, something like a hackathon, it does sort of pit people against each other on a level playing field often, because obviously the problem isn't domain specific usually. So, that's cool. So clearly, it seems like you've got a lot right, you know, with the culture and the way you're managing the team, and I can fully see how the team's been successful. What about on the bits you feel, you know, I guess any startup business, there's loads of lessons to learn, and you always look back on things and think, oh, okay, well, this is from personal experience. Yeah, well, I could have done that a bit better, or you know, that probably wasn't the best way to handle that situation. What do you feel have been your kind of big mistakes, I guess, or your kind of key learns that you could share that, you know, in hindsight, looking back, it was a really big learning lesson?
Yeah, I think the first lesson I learned is, and the suggestion I would give to other companies who are building the data science teams is to align the data science team and needs with their goals of the company, or the goal of the data science that you are placing for them. Because what I see a lot, and I think to some extent we've been also doing this, we always were thinking that data and machine learning usage of AI technologies will be our key advantage, and basically making us ahead of competition. And from the day one, we've been focusing like, yes, we need to build a data science team, and we need to create this data science culture. But it actually takes a long way to build the data science culture. It doesn't come from day one. You cannot, someone who been always using Excel or doing some basic analysis to come and say, look, this is now another tool that you need to use, or you have the data science team that can build anything for you. There needs to be a completely shift in people's mind, how to approach the problems they have. And if you have the data science goals aligned with the rest of the business, that helps a lot. But if you just build the team saying, oh, now we have the data science team, we can answer any question we want, we have plenty of data, that just doesn't work. You really need to have a strategic thinking, how exactly you want to use the team, how you want to use the resource, how you want to use data, what kind of questions you want to answer, because sometimes actually the data itself suggests you what questions are the right to answer, but you need to have a clear idea in your mind of what you're going to do with this, because it's very easy to lose the right talent that you spend a lot of time hiring. Because there is no alignment and there is no clear vision at the top level, what exactly is the role of the team and what exactly they're planning to do. So I think that's the key, to have this team aligned with the business goals and have a clear picture and a clear definition of what they're going to do in the team, how they're going to contribute to the business.
Absolutely. And I guess on that note, having literally sort of forged the team from, you know, scratch, what are your thoughts on, you know, kind of optimal team structure in a data science team, you know, in terms of size? Do you prefer bigger, smaller teams? Do you feel that you know, bigger teams with more people always mean more output? You know, so what are your kind of thoughts on size of team, and I guess, and also use of internal versus external consultancies, you know, in-house versus third parties? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's probably another important point to consider when you build the team, is the size of the team, and that you need to understand that there is no one-fits-all solution. Again, you need to clearly understand what you need this team for, what kind of problem they are trying to solve. If it is just, you know, to work on some one-time project, but probably you do not need to hire the big data science team, and you can successfully outsource this. Now there are plenty of different companies that provide a really high level of data scientists are fully devoted and contributing to the team. But if you want to build the data science as a key and a core capability of the company, and basically make your product based on data AI technology as a key competitive advantage, I think this is where you need to start building thinking to start building team internally. In terms of size, I think again it varies and depends on multiple factors. Like, we've been a startup at the very, very early stage 6 years ago. Of course, there is always shortage of resources, but as I said, from day one, we knew that we wanted to build this capability internally. So that's probably, you do not think about big size team and you are looking for hiring like 1 or 2 data scientists. And again, you need to understand what exactly your data scientist will be doing. Will he be working just with a building machine learning models or algorithm? Will it also be involved in building the data pipelines, the whole architecture piece, how the models will be productionized? Or it will be, just someone who is doing basic analysis. And in this case, the question is, do you really need a data scientist for this purpose? You probably need a different resource. You can have a great analyst who will derive plenty of intelligence from your data, but not necessarily will be a data scientist. So again, you need to balance the goals, the business goals, and you need to balance the resources and understand what exactly you're expecting from the people in the team. So in our case, we knew that the data scientists will be people who work not only with the data modeling, but actually the whole process from data extraction, data manipulation, doing basic analytics as well together on top of this. But we knew that we also want to have an engineer who will additionally help us create the whole architecture piece, the data pipeline, the ETL processes, help us implement the models into production environment and do all the machine learning ops part. So there is, I think, as well, if you think in these terms, if you hire a data scientist but do not hire a data engineer, then you probably end up doing some POCs from time to time, but you won't be able, or you will spend a lot of time asking your data scientist to do the work that he's not prepared to do. So you really need to be clear about the objectives you want to reach and how the right team will be structured. Yeah. Now, we, for example, we are a much bigger company. We have much bigger team, and we, even within the data scientists, we have the sub teams or verticals dedicated to specific problem solving. For example, someone looking specifically for the building fraud solutions, or someone looking for building the collection optimization modeling. So the team is much bigger. There is a separate piece of team working on the engineering solutions, on the architecture solutions, and I think this is how it works well, hands in hands between the two teams.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's very interesting when you say that, because obviously data is a huge umbrella, isn't it? It sits across so many different disciplines and technologies and roles and techniques, etc. And I guess it's a bit of a problem with the rise of popularity of AI in data science, and now there's this new sexy title of data scientist. Everybody calls himself a data scientist often. Exactly. You've got to sort of really dig under the hood to actually understand what somebody's doing. And like you said, like many instances, do you actually need a data scientist for what you're doing or not, as the case may be? So I think it's really useful to share that, sort of being very clear on actually the role and the person you do need. But with that in mind, bearing in mind there are these different roles and sort of different skill sets and different focuses, when you go about growing a team and you look about hiring individuals to join the business, do you, irrespective of the nature of the role from a technical focus point of view, do you have any sort of core characteristics or core traits that you assess candidates against, that sort of as a common thread that runs throughout, whether it's somebody you would look to bring on board?
Yeah, I think again for us the technical skills, well, it's obviously an important aspect, but uh, not the most critical one. I think that given that we are being the startup company, what was important is to have people who are eager to solve the problem. So I think problem solving capability is one of the key. Basically, again, understanding the problem from the very beginning, trying to understand what are the right tools, what is the data needed for this, because at the very beginning we didn't have any data on our own. So even to understand where you need to go, what kind of data you need to build the solution, how you get this data, what is the most optimal way to get this data, or the fastest way to get this data, and then come up with a solution. And once you come up with a solution, for example, the model, you actually need to understand how to apply this model, right? So you can build a strategy on top of this model. And again, at the very beginning, we had just a very small team, and the people who were building the models were also the ones who were building the strategy on top of this model. And this is what was important for us, to have a person who is eager to do this kind of things, and not stopping, just I build the model, I'm happy with performance, I don't know, the Genie is 75%. So that's the biggest I achieve, but actually that's not where the work is ending. So the whole process of building the strategy, bringing the model to production, monitoring it, the whole end-to-end process, and that's what was important. I think the other thing, I think it's probably independently whether it is a data scientist or overall we are looking for some new resource. I'm always looking for someone who loves to learn. Doesn't matter what, it's a new algorithm or a new way of doing some things, or just a completely different someone who learns to play a music instrument or learns a new language. Someone who has the desire to always evolve, to always think what will be the next thing that I can bring to the business, or even just to develop myself as a personality. I think the world now is changing so fast, you never know what will be requested from the candidates 10 years from now, 20 years from now. But I think what is important is that when someone has this desire to learn, to always evolve, to adapt himself to the new conditions, that's probably the key features that the person can bring and make himself successful. Yeah. Like no one, again, when I started career, no one was talking about the data science at all. And there is a lot of learning and adaptation on the way. And someone who can do it with a lot of errors as well, right? It doesn't come just, naturally with a very straightforward process. Always you learn, you make a mistake, and you learn from this mistake. There is always a lesson you learn, and that's how you evolve as a personality. So I would say, yeah, these two things, curiosity as well, but that's probably as well something that comes together with problem solving and learning.
Yeah, I would definitely share that sentiment. And similarly, actually, when I hire for the business, for recruitment consultants, just somebody that's always looking to improve on themselves, and like I say, curiosity and learning and self-development, I think is absolutely key. Because I think jobs, and this is outside of recruitment and data science, but jobs often can become quite mundane if you're doing it day in, day out all the time. And I think you need to have that kind of personality where, of course it's up to the business to ensure that you allow opportunities for people to grow and develop. But I think, self-starters and people that do enjoy learning and do enjoy developing, I think very often if you have that mindset, you can sometimes read something or listen to something that just triggers a whole new way of doing something. And then actually it feeds into a real piece of innovation in the business that you hadn't even necessarily thought of before. And I think it's that kind of mindset that really great candidates do have. So yeah, I totally would echo that in my experience as well. Okay, fantastic. Well, I guess just lastly, I was keen to get your thoughts on, you mentioned earlier the what attracted you from your previous studies of kind of behavioral economics and human behavior to the fintech space and just the sheer possibilities of what can be done with AI and machine learning in financial services. You know, there's such a vast potential there, so many applications. How do you feel the landscape is looking at the moment for the use of AI and machine learning in the fintech landscape in general?
Well, I think that's a really very promising direction for technology application. Like the whole fintech sector. So far, I really think that majority of the companies or the banks just were starting their movements towards more data-focused machine learning usage of technology. The more and more I see application of this going into building the more customized products for the consumers. So it's not one fits all, but actually creating the most customized experience, the most customized product based on the data or the information you know about this consumer. So before, I think the first step was everyone was starting building again the basic risk assessment models, fraud prevention models. That's probably the key one. I think there are just a few companies on the market who are not yet doing it, but I think majority moved into this direction. The more comes as well towards digital assessment. So someone, for example, submits the documents, the QSC solutions that are as well. A lot of development has been done in this field and applied a lot in the financial technology sector. That again becomes, I think, more and more applicable to the sector. Assessing, doing the OCR of the documents, matching the documents, verification whether the document is genuine or not. So that's quite typical as well. But the next step where I see it's going is really creating this customized journey and user experience where basically whatever you see on your application or on your product is fully customized to a specific individual, not just group of individuals, not just clusters or segments, but really like I take my application and my bank already knows that it is me and knows that I yesterday made a transaction and maybe today I want to buy something complementary to the transaction I've done and proposes me, do I want to use the credit line for making this purchase, for example, without asking me additional questions or asking me additional information because they already have some history of me. So I think that the more and more this personalization or even hyper personalization coming to the overall to the I think any consumer focused product, but also specifically to the fintech.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think AI and machine learning, I guess in general, any kind of customer focused service where enables a better level of service through automation or prediction or suggestion or whatever you want to call it, that enables customers to experience a better quality journey. Absolutely, but I think there's a definite demand for it in the financial services space because it's just obviously such a complex world, isn't it? That exists. So being able to use it in the right way to create better quality experiences for people, I think there's this huge scope and potential there. Absolutely. So okay, fantastic. Well, been lovely speaking to you, Natalia. I really enjoyed the chat, and I think you've shared some real value today in terms of your experience and what you've achieved. And obviously, you've got a phenomenal track record and very impressive with what you have achieved so far. So certainly not a surprise that you shared a lot of value from your journey. But I just want to say thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today. And I wish you and ZestMoney even further success for the future. I'll be watching your progress intently as time goes on. And
thanks a lot, Guy. The pleasure is all mine. I was really happy to share my experience, and it is great if this will be helpful for someone.
It will, absolutely, I'm sure. Well, take care and stay safe, and we'll catch up soon, hopefully.
Stay safe. Bye. Take care.
Bye.